How will people know they've engaged a good coach? The only true measure is if the person who is coaching you is living the principles that they themselves are teaching you. Because if you don't see that manifesting it in their life, then clearly you've got a fraud. You've got a fraud in your hand. My feeling that I'm a fraud is being measured against something. And guess what that something is? It's who I am. But now, because I don't know who I am, it's subliminally in my mind playing out. But I have not taken time to conscientize myself around it. It's about the journey of self-discovery. What I can say is take time to know yourself. So in other words, gather information about yourself. What are my habits looking like? What are my emotions? What triggers them? What is it that I enjoy spending time on? And as you gather this information, you know what happens naturally? It suddenly gives you a set of information that says, okay, I can improve in this area. And I can improve.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Deep Dive Show. My name is Mpomo Tauriro. Our goal with the show is to bring you and I in proximity to the people and ideas that will show us that it is possible and it can be done, and eventually help us achieve on our dreams and on our goals. Today, we have a special guest. He is a digital transformation expert. He is a management consultant. He has worked with the likes of KPMG and IBM. He is a project manager. He is a trainer. He is a life and business coach. And he is the director and leading consultant at Growth and Learning Consultants. So ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the show today, Mr. Sebonego, Norman Sebonego. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Oh, good.
Awesome. So I want to run you through the experience I had researching you.
Okay.
It is so much. There's so much to dig into. And it's very interesting the way, your journey has built out, from the 90s up to today. It's like you've lived 3 lifetimes. System analyst, and then you went into consulting, and then now you're doing all coaching, life coaching, while all these 2 are still part of, what you do. So essentially, when people ask you what you do, what do you tell them?
Well, I basically tell them I'm a management consultant. That's what I, by default, say.
Yes.
Because
I wanted to know which one is your favorite.
Yeah,
So now you know.
It's not necessarily my favorite.
Okay.
I'm highly passionate on the life coaching space because I enjoy adding value to people and seeing people grow.
Yes.
So that's where my real passion and natural abilities lie. But there's a serious correlation between the 3.
True.
Because it's about the skill sets and how you then translate them and work and go about life from a position of strength.
Yes.
So they are all my natural endowments, really.
Yes. I think it's also interesting how how your journey turned out, like I said. But like Steve Jobs says, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, not going forward. I don't know if that was the experience for you when you started out.
Yes, I can only connect them backwards purely because, when you look at where I began in terms of my career,
yes,
there was a natural involvement. The evolution of my journey was as a result of further self-discovery. And then you keep opening this chapter of your life, But these are chapters of a book. So in that way, it becomes complementary. That's why they say there's a linkage between the 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's that harmony.
Yes.
Awesome. Now, you talk about the process of how you of the Sebonego we know and we see today. Walk us through how you discovered that. How you discovered yourself, the journey, because I think this is where a lot of people kind of get lost or are struggling with right now. Discovering, first of all, who they are, discovering their gifts, and discovering their purpose.
Okay. Look, when we obviously grow up and then we go to primary school, you go to secondary school, and you're really still in your teens, you're still in the phase of self-discovery, trying to figure out what the world is about. And you then keep maturing as you engage with people, as you engage in projects, as you go about life. And my journey is interesting in the sense that, I was born in Kanye, and then I basically, did my schooling here, primary school here in Bentema. I then went for my tertiary and secondary school. I actually did my schooling in Zimbabwe.
Oh.
And then I came back. And
do you taura or
come again?
Do you taura or kuluma?
Both. A little bit of both, yeah.
Okay.
A couple of others as well. A little bit of Swahili, a little bit of Nyanja, a little bit of... I'm a linguist somewhat.
Yeah, you're a linguist somewhat. And you speak Zulu, eh?
Yeah, I do speak Zulu as well. So, that evolution comes out of, my first job that I landed immediately when I came back was with the Government Computer Bureau, which is now known as DIT. And in my work with DIT, lo and behold, there were consultants who were consulting for government. And as they were interacting with the rest of us who were employed, they kind of identified, okay, this one has strengths here and there. And I then got poached and worked for PwC. In other words, they interested me in a job, which obviously the offer was much higher than what I was getting in government. And it is there that then my world just suddenly opened, because...
But before you carry on, I'm very curious to know, what was that they saw in you? Can you put it down to words that they saw in you to say, we want you?
I think it was the structure. It was the outlier thinking. I'm not conventional in my thinking. I see things quite differently. I also have a kind of strategic, mindset in terms of everything that I do. I see strategy. And also just being able to throw a problem at me, within a minute I can be able to see the pieces and put them together. So naturally in the consulting world, you're problem solving, you're engaging with businesses, you're making recommendations. So it takes you to be able to unpack the client, understand their needs, understand their pain points, and then be able to recommend. And not only that, you have to have the skill sets to be able to engage at C-suite level. If you're going to engage with executives and the board, you need to be able to be on top of your game. So maybe my natural inclination to be able to just engage in conversations at that level, perhaps maybe is what attracted them.
Awesome. So after that, you went into, because you're somebody that has worked also, you've worked in public and private, and you have enjoyed a good number of years on each. That has also built into your experience and the way you also, your rich outlook on the world. How is that kind of, those two experiences, when you put them together, how have those shaped you?
Quite significantly. Purely because government, at that time, there were a couple of graduates in the IT field. So, and it was at a point in a time where networking was the thing, emails were coming into the picture. So we were the group of, I think there was about 30 of us, if not 33 to be specific, who were graduates who then got hired to come in and start networking government. So that meant that they needed to augment our skill sets. And they took us through a whole year of training. They brought in NCC from the UK, and we were kind of really incubated and drilled down. We'll spend a month, spread out throughout the year training. So that added value around, tools, methodologies, and things like that. And that shaped my world to say, look, if you really want to excel in what you do, do consider methodologies, do consider structure, do consider things that are measurable. So that's the value that then government added to me. And then when I moved to the consulting space, there you get thrown into the deep end. You're expected to swim. You are there to add value. Why? Because you're a resource that they're billing the client on, and you can't afford to produce substandard results. So that then shaped and kind of sharpened me to engage with materials. Fortunately, within the consulting space, they have a lot of materials that you can relate and engage with, and you got good coaches as well. people who just want to make sure that you are doing it to the standard of the consulting firm.
Awesome. So I want to believe you went into, the IT space because it was something you were passionate about at that point in time. Is that so? Or
my choice of career.
Yes.
I have an uncle who's a businessman, quite a renowned businessman, and he had a spares shop, and there was this till. And back then, Alti sales as a point of sales was the biggest thing that was happening around town. So I used to, during holidays, work there. And I then was engaging with this Alti sales thing. And it really caught my attention, pressing the keyboard. So it was really my first interaction with that, with computing. Then I think that's what really gave birth to considering that career. But if you were to ask me what I wanted to be, I really wanted to be a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I chose computing.
You chose computing. Yeah. Okay. Or computing chose you.
I think computing chose me. Yeah, considering the
yes.
scenario. Yeah.
All right. So for somebody that's like watching or listening to us right now, and they're at that point where some of us, sometimes we don't know what we're good at. Some of us are good at so many things we can't choose. What would you say to them?
Look, it's about the journey of self-discovery. And as we know today, and I can literally attribute the lack of productivity in the country, the lack of, or the comfort zone that we see with substandard delivery. It's really coming out of people are not in their areas of passion. And what I can say is take time to know yourself. Because if you are going to excel, you need to know yourself. So in other words, gather information about yourself. What are my habits looking like? What are my emotions? What triggers them? Gather information around what are my strengths? What is it that I enjoy spending time on? And as you gather this information, you know what happens naturally? It suddenly gives you a set of information that says, okay, I can improve in this area and I can improve my life in that area. And then you keep working in that sense. And as you then discover yourself, it begins opening the world that says, what potentially can I be best at? Because your competitive edge comes from who you are. It doesn't come from your academic training. No, not at all. It comes from who you are and how you engage with the things that are before you.
Powerful. I like what you said there at the end. It's very powerful. So as somebody is listening, obviously you've just talked about how we can discover that, how we can go around, finding more about ourselves. Because I think it's where we have to sit down and read the book, which is us, instead of going out there. It's not an outside thing. All right. So what about if right now I feel, because I think when hearing you say this, it makes so much sense. But then I have to pay the bills. I have to do all these things. I can't just up and leave. What is the next step for me if I'm in that situation? How do I maneuver around? Okay, I found out that what I'm doing here is not really what I'm good at. I'm just doing it because of necessity. So what is the next step that I have to do in order for me to follow what I did? Because your journey is a testament to that. You went from here, you came here, and you had to seemingly reinvent yourself along the way. And you've managed. So I think you're in the perfect position to actually shed light on that journey. How would you take someone through that?
Look, the interesting thing about human beings and life is that what may seem as inconsistent, sporadic behaviors, they're actually not that. In other words, you see somebody doing this and somebody doing that, and then you kind of figure out, no, human beings are actually very, very consistent. Our behaviors are consistent. That's why in the psychology space, they would then group you into personalities and say, this is your personality type, that is your personality type. That therefore means you need to then take time to find out what your personality type is. And there are tools out there. There are people who help. For example, the work of a life coach, it's one of the things I do. I assist people in understanding what their personality types is, and then we unpack it. How do you relate, in the workplace? How would you best relate with friends? How would you best relate as a business person? How would you best relate in your family life? And therefore, anybody who wants to say, look, I am stuck in the rut, take time to find out what your personality type is. And it's almost like a spitting image, mirror image, or you will basically see yourself when being taken through that journey. But that's not the only tool. I mean, there are other things. I use, for example, a spiritual gifts inventory tool. That just says, what are your spiritual gifts? If you're a Christian and you believe that God is there and he creates, the question is, why did God allow you to be born? For what reason? For what purpose? To add value where and how? You're not just a statistic. Therefore, God then gives you these natural abilities. But a lot of people go about life not even knowing those. So the sooner you start discovering what your spiritual giftedness is, what if that is where your life is supposed and your vocation is supposed to be? What if that is where your money is supposed to come from and your livelihood is supposed to come from? Because I'm a strong believer in that what comes first is you and then your career next. So there are a couple of things, like I said, that you could use just to discover yourself further and have clarity of thought.
Awesome. I also think because what you're also saying is you're also myth busting in terms of some of you're crushing some of the limiting beliefs that people have, because some people would say, I understand this is my passion. I understand I'm good at this, but how do I make money out of this? How do I make money out of this? How would you go about that?
Look, I'm going to share you a very short story.
Yes.
Assuming that, and I think we're in that, no, it's winter. It normally happens in winter. Assuming you're driving a car and it's misty that morning and you're driving from here to Lubatse, but it's thick mist. The question is, are you going to arrive in Lubatse?
If I'm driving from here to Lubatse?
To Lubatse, yeah.
Probably.
You will arrive.
Yeah.
You know why you will arrive? You can't see further down the road, correct?
Yeah.
But each time you move, you can see within a meter.
Yes.
And it becomes clearer and clearer as you move ahead. And there are confirmations that, oh, okay, I'm now passing Oatle. I'm passing Boatle. I'm by this curve. I see these two blue crystal Monati Sukiri painted, those.
I know those, on the way.
Mirror, on the way. And then suddenly, now I'm in Lubatse. You know what that story means, basically? Things only become clearer as you take the journey. Okay, so the answer on monetization will become clearer as you first understand yourself. So don't put the cart before the horse. If you run for monetizing, what are you monetizing? Because at the end of the day, you are the resource. So what are your skill sets? What value adds do you bring? What are even just your passion, your areas of passion, your hobbies? It is that collective picture around who you are that then will spark the answer. How do I then monetize? Yeah.
So we should stop looking at the entire staircase. Just look at the next step.
Look, you can't build a building and have it firm without the foundation. So the things I'm talking about are actually foundational. So if we're going to run and say, I want to make money when what's not concrete, that is firm, that is reinforced, then, I always say to people, when you have kind of, as they use the term, self-actualized, you can literally throw anything at that type of a person and they will navigate the waters. You know why?
True.
Because whether you throw them into the science world, whether you throw them into the philosophy world, whether you throw them into the business world or entrepreneurship world, they will approach that thing from a position of passion, natural endowments, and strength. So you throw something at me today, I'm going to approach it from a position of, okay, what value can I add? I'm going to approach it from a position of what training can come out of it. I'm going to approach it from what is the strategy? Because I know that naturally in that area I excel. And suddenly I'm doing something that I enjoy. And as I do something that I enjoy, like I said, the answer around where the monetization point comes natural.
Awesome. We're going to pause here for a break. We'll be back with Mr. Sebonego, Norman Sebonego. Welcome back, everybody. We're here in the Deep Dive Show with Sebonego, Norman Sebonego. Mr. S.
Yes, sir.
We're in rapid fire now.
Shoot.
Okay, question number 1 on rapid fire. What do you collect?
What do I collect? I collect pieces and sheets of music. That's what I collect.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you have in your collection right now?
Varied music. I enjoy laid-back classics, so I collect that. I enjoy modern kind of pop. But believe it or not, blues are my thing, jazz are my thing. So I collect those pieces and sheets of music. I do read them. I do practice a little bit on the piano.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I do.
What is your thing now? Your genre? What do you listen to the most now?
Blues.
Blues.
Yep.
Okay. I think I read a study that was talking about, it puts levels showing what do people that are most well off in life listen to, and those were the classics. And
Listen to this, man.
I'm telling you, they were right there at the top. Yeah,
Okay.
I read it somewhere. It was on the advertised. I don't know if it was true, but it was on the advertised.
Okay.
So I read it because I was trying to check myself, because the boy's gotta be rich.
Yeah.
Question number 2. What is your guilty pleasure?
My guilty?
Your guilty pleasure.
Guilty pledge. Unpack
Guilty
that for
pleasure. Something you like to do that not a lot of people know you like to do. Or something that you indulge in that, not many people would know. He does this. It's pretty cool.
The piano.
The piano.
Yeah, I play the piano, and I can spend hours and endless hours there.
Playing the piano.
Playing the piano. I used to engage a lot as well, drawing, art. But it's been a couple of years where I've put my art book aside. And it was a cycle of, believe it or not, I stopped piano 20 years ago. It is only in the last 3 years that I've started re-engaging, and I've upped the game, and I've got certain goals that I have for myself, and yeah.
Hey, some Mozart vibes. All right. What is your go-to lazy dinner?
Lazy?
What is your go-to lazy dinner?
Dinner?
Yeah, where you don't want to, probably where you just want to have something quick. You don't want to spend too much time making dinner. What is that?
Chinese, my friend. Chinese and Thai.
Yes.
Those are, for me, it.
Yes.
They're quick to make, highly palatable. I've kind of acquired that taste, and that's what I... Yeah,
hey,
that's what I enjoy. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm joking. All right. What story do you tell the most? What story do you tell the most across the board?
I think it's the story of self-discovery. I find myself gravitating more towards that. I always go into deep conversations, and it always boils down to that. And I think it's because of what I have experienced through it. And I tend to kind of, repeat that one way or another. All my circle of friends, they all know they've either received a book or something that is about adding value to their lives. And that's really defines who I am, and that's my story. It's what I...
It's your thing.
Yeah, it's my thing.
All right. The last question on rapid fire. Do you have any regrets?
I think one of my biggest regrets is from day one. if I had to choose a career, I should have been a teacher.
A teacher.
Yes.
Interesting.
Had I gone into the classroom, I would have been the happiest of men. Because I enjoy imparting knowledge, I enjoy seeing other people grow, and I innovate in that space. That is why, and just to talk to the linkage between, like you were saying, the different facets of me.
Yes.
Interestingly, when I started business in 2007, running my own enterprise, just from the choice of the name of the company, Learning and Growth, that speaks volumes.
Yes.
And then I moved into management consultancy. In the space within management consultancy, my areas of specialization are actually around e-learning. So I've combined my information systems training from university with my natural skills around, delivering training, and I've put those together. So that's why I was saying to you, the question of how do you monetize? And then coupled with that is, if you are learning, you're not learning from nowhere, you're learning to improve.
Yes.
And therefore you need to be coached so that you may, know how to apply what you've learned from the external world. Because if you don't know yourself, I will empower you, I'll speak volumes. But how to hell because you don't know how it relates to you and how to apply it. So that's the linkage. And my biggest regret, had I gone into teaching from day one, I know I would have maybe done a lot more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And imagine that the teaching profession is one of the professions that is not esteemed as though I'm an accountant
or a lawyer.
Or a lawyer. But believe you me, I want to believe had I been a teacher, it would have been totally different. I would have revolutionized that area. Because I've engaged with HR practitioners in the market. I've had conversations around that. I've had conversations with the Ministry of Education for the longest of times. I mean, this whole conversation now around multiple pathways is conversations that, I've had for many years. That's. But it's not regrettable because, as you can see, I've kind of played my role in that area.
Yes.
But since the question says, what's your biggest regret? That's it.
That's how you're going to go about it. All right. Now, this brings us a wrap of rapid fire. All right. I want us to kind of come this way. You've talked a lot about, just me studying your journey and having engaged with your work. You have in your strengths confidence. You have others like efficiency. You have these strengths that you already studied and you found out that this is where you're strong. Talk to me about how you build self-confidence, because I think this is an area that for a lot of people, I think just a backstory to that. I had a friend, brilliant in mathematics, back in secondary. The teacher gave us a question. Listen, you guys try out this question. He knew that this question was difficult and we're probably not going to get it in that lesson. And then he said, next lesson, whoever comes and gives me the answer, I'll reward them. My friend, before the end of the lesson, he had already solved half of the problem. And then he sat down before lunchtime, he'd finished the question. Brilliant. He was brilliant, in mathematics. And then he showed me, I was like, man, I'm like, okay, let's try it out with this formula to see if it's correct. And it was correct. Battle tested, it was correct. Next lesson, I'm like, dog, when he asks you a question, answer, But it turns out that he had showed it to someone else.
The entrepreneur you knew saw a monetization opportunity. Nonetheless,
Exactly. It turns out I was I actually didn't see that. But I was like, So it turns out that he had told someone else. He had told a friend of a girl. Actually, they were solving it, and then he kind of showed her the question and how he solved it. And then when the teacher asked, he didn't raise his hand. And then the girl looked at him, and then she raised the hand. and then she got the credit, but he was the one who originated it, because he wasn't confident in himself, but he was brilliant. So for a lot of people, we talk about, confidence coming out of competence. He was competent, he was very good, but he was not self-confident. So I want to ask you this question after elaborately putting it like this. How does somebody develop, how do you help people develop self-confidence? Because I think there's something that also anybody that engages with you can tell that you exude.
Look, the scenario you just painted is a peculiar one. Because like you said, confidence is built firstly by being good at what you do. Even math, math at primary and secondary were a problem area for me. Only did I learn when I got into university, where I decided I'm going to challenge myself and I'm going to do calculus as a minor. Because I wanted to prove a point that this thing really... if others are able to solve it, let me solve it as well.
Yeah.
I had a tough time with calculus, but I eventually made it. Now, the issue is, maths has the stereotype that it's difficult. But in actual fact, when you break it down into smaller chunks and you take it step by step, you can actually literally solve problems.
True.
Okay. And that will naturally give you the confidence. Now, even whether you want to start a business or you want to do something, or even just public speaking. If you want to be a good public speaker, you have to script, you have to talk to yourself in the bathroom, you have to talk to yourself looking at the mirror, you have to record yourself on video, rewatch, know the areas of improvement. That will eventually build confidence. However, in the scenario you've painted with your friend, there could be other factors that hold us back from exuding confidence. It could be issues of background. It could be subliminal messages in your subconscious where you were told you're not good at something. It could be that you were excellent when you were a child, but just because you were a threat amongst your cousins and you were already, people were playing you down because you were always the first. And then that naturally begins to breed something that we all should not have, which is fear.
Fear, yeah.
Then because of fear, it suddenly kills your confidence. But it's not that you're not good at what you do. So the next thing that you need to then do is work on overcoming the fear. But fears have root causes. They have root causes. And you must go and understand and unpack for... You see, that whole journey of self-discovery is partly around what are my fears? Okay. Why is it that I show anger? Why is it that I'm so irritable? Why is it that this week I just don't feel like doing something? I'm a little depressed for that period. All those are emotional factors that have a root, but they all manifest themselves as fear.
Yes.
Each one of those emotions are actually based on fear. So when we now do a homework and an assignment to overcome our fears, guess what? The confidence is already there because I'm good at what I do. All I need to do is we
were born confident.
Yeah, precisely. We were born confident. We were naturally, thanks for that. Yeah, it's a takeaway for me. We were born confident, and therefore the world has now instilled fear in us, and we now need to know how to deal with fear. And a lot of people don't know that dealing with fear in itself, and I'll use this word, it's a science.
Yes.
How to deal with fear is a science.
Yeah.
And if we can deal with that science and be helped around it, trust me, we'll all be confident.
Yeah. So, very powerful what you put out there. Very, very powerful. I think also something that, I think a lot of us, or I think everybody has struggled with this. Even to you, probably when you started in the beginning. How did you deal with imposter syndrome? Where, you're doing something, but you feel like, hey, man, I don't know if I can actually because I think, like you're saying, its root cause is still fear. But I think it happens to a lot of us, a lot of people. How were you able to deal with imposter syndrome?
All right. You'll need to define that and unpack it for me a little bit more. But my understanding of what you're saying is...
Where you feel like you...
At times we mimic people.
Yes, where you feel like you're a fraud. This is, where you just feel like you're a fraud, but this is your chosen path.
You know my answer to that question. You know my answer to that question, which is my feeling that I'm a fraud is being measured against something. And guess what that something is? It's who I am.
Yeah.
All right. But now, because I don't know who I am, it's subliminally in my mind playing out. But I have not taken time to conscientize myself around it. I've not taken it from the subconscious to the conscious mind. So I'm not conscious of who I am. But deep down, there's this reference point that keeps saying I'm a fraud. So to deal with it, once again, it's discover yourself. Who am I? Simple question. Why was I born in Kanye? Why was I born in that hospital? Why did I go to school in Kubentema? Why is it that whenever we played ball, Rele Bananyana, the guys will literally stop until I'm there to play? Why is it that when you're now an adult and there's a problem to solve, people will naturally gravitate towards you and throw it at you? What is it that they're seeing that you're not seeing? I get what I'm asking generic questions. Okay. And those are just questions that lead towards self-discovery. And you begin painting the picture, and like you're saying, these are dots that eventually when you join, they paint a picture. Now, the quickest way to accelerate that self-discovery is engage a coach, period. Engage somebody who is trained and skilled to unpack and help people unpack who they are.
I wanna push back at that one a bit. How do people know they've engaged a good coach?
How will people know they've engaged a good coach? The only true measure is if the person who is coaching you is living the principles that they themselves are teaching you. Because if you don't see that manifesting it in their life, then clearly you've got a fraud. You've got a fraud in your hands.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, there's a lot of that. There are a lot of people who will, because it's a buzz thing, it's a buzzword. Even over the years, man, if you study the intake stack of UB, there was a period where everybody wanted to be a lawyer. A period where everybody wanted to be a teacher. A period where everybody wanted a computer to be a computer scientist.
Yes.
And it's now worse with online content where people can nibble content. And my wife is in the beauty therapy space.
Yes.
And there's a whole phenomena of all these beauty therapists who have studied how to do nails on YouTube and do facials on YouTube. But guess what? They don't have the grounding and the foundational stuff around biology, understanding the skin, the epidermis, the what, understanding body metabolism, such that when they look at you and they recommend that it's all grounded.
Yeah, it's just a trend.
Yeah, it's just a trend. So it really boils down to Geman.
Awesome. I wanted us to kind of come here. Can you take us maybe back to a point in your life where you had to pull yourself out of a very difficult or tough situation, and the steps you took to bring yourself out of that in order to be able to operate at a level where you're at your best? Can you remember a time in your life where there was that?
Yeah.
And what you did?
Yeah, one of the things I really struggled with in my early years and also in my childhood years was temper. And that temper manifested itself in many ways. If you were to ask my childhood friends to tell you our stories, all the way from primary to secondary, and if they were to then, let's assume those that I had not engaged with now in my professional life. They'll tell you, this is not the guy we knew.
Hey, Nolo Batiste. Carnolo Batiste.
Yeah, so because of that temper thing, it really messed up my worldview. And I could not engage and relate. Now, that was a very difficult thing. Now, to deal with that, I did not get external help. I get gonna, appreciate the whole need for go for counseling, go for this. That wasn't there during my time when I was growing up. So I had to find a way of dealing with this because it was a barrier. It was a barrier to relationships. It was a barrier to everything. Because if you did something to me, it had to be sorted.
Yes.
And it was not about sorting it tomorrow. It was not about sorting it a minute later.
Yes.
We sorted it out now.
Yes.
Regardless of whether ungwana or moholo or eng. Now, you can see the extent to which that was a problem. And it was a big. Now, to deal with it, I had to pray. So I spent time in personal prayer. Every time I would go into my room and cry and pray about my temper. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. I re-prayed. I prayed and I prayed. And so that battle...
When you had like a trigger to poof, what would you do in that point in time?
No, the trigger would naturally, it's a trigger. I mean, the bullet will come out.
And then you go and pray.
And then I go,
like, hey, Jesus again.
Yeah, and then I go and deal with myself in my closet on my knees. That suddenly, eventually just, God has a way of ministering to us in our own space. And especially when we engage with Him, He just has a way of allowing His power to overcome us. And that really helped me a lot. And I'm talking really, I think, my years towards, towards my last year of O-levels and the like. That's when it really got intense. And that's when I started overcoming that temper. So that being said, it's really saying, look, all of us, one way or the other, have that thing. And we have to first, number one, admit that we have it.
Yes.
It's the first step of victory. And I'm sharing this because for me, I know a lot of people have a lot of other areas that they need to conquer. Some will say, what is your demon? Basically.
Yes.
And there's that thing that you really admit that you have it. Be genuine with yourself. It's about growth because who's going to be the victor after that thing? It's you. You're going to become a better person. So confront it, deal with it, be prayerful about it, and then also engage and read. And because as you read, you're learning how other people have dealt with it. And indeed, if it needs counseling, go for counseling. I always say, the struggles in this country, the social ills that we see, the psychology profession has really failed us. Because here is a group of people who have studied the mind. And they are a profession. And here we find ourselves in a state of affairs that we find countries in and nations in. But here are people who have studied this thing into depth. The challenge becomes the fact that it's being approached from consulting hours, monetization, and it's now a profession. When in actual fact, that profession could still add value and bring people out. So if it gets to the point where you're really struggling deep with something, go for counseling. They're there to really help.
Awesome. You asked my last question. Just walk us through Map for Life and the work you do there.
Oh, Map for Life. Yeah, Map for Life is a tool that I use. The Map for Life Institute is based in South Africa. And, I accredited to really certify my skills around life coaching. And Map for Life really follows 5 steps, basic 5 steps. The first step is, where am I? And, as you discover where you are, it begins letting you know what you then need to improve. So, and it's got tools and tactics that you use during that phase. The Wheel of Life. There's a set of questionnaires where you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 on principles of successful people. Just to check yourself, where are you? It asks questions such as, what must I stop doing to improve? What must I start to improve? What must I do more of? So in that first phase, what Map for Life does, it helps you just know where you are. What are my habits currently? And then the next phase is, what are my desires? What are the things that I really want to do? The desires of my heart, the areas of passion, my childhood dreams. And you begin documenting those in a brainstorming session. Thereafter, you move to the next stage. You then say, look, if this is who I am, because as you articulate who you are, you're beginning to say, from cradle to grave, this is what I want to be. This is the legacy I want to live. Now, the next point is you must then put these into a plan, because they're not going to come to life without them being written. And I normally emphasize it must be pen to paper. I know digital has its place, but there's something special about pen and paper. There is something special about
no doubt.
So as you write you're literally writing them into a plan. And when you say a plan, there are specific things that are called a plan. You don't just write things and you say, I have a plan. You must have a clear goal statement. You must say, what is the reason for me to achieve this? What is the motivational factor? What are the consequences if I don't do this thing? What skills do I have for this thing to happen? Which skills do I need to attain? Who has done it before that I can engage with? Who can help me? How is it going to look like when it comes alive? You see that now you're beginning to paint the picture much more clearly, and then you build a vision board around it so that you have constant reminders. Be smart around it. Have your picture on your phone that you're looking at constantly. Print out something. Put it behind the toilet wall, the door. It's always before your face. So after that type of planning, you then now need to put it into action. So you put it into chewable chunks, and you say, look, I've brainstormed on what my entire life is going to be. I'm going to first take this goal and this goal and this goal, because as part of the Map for Life process, we help you with prioritization.
Yes.
Because people struggle with knowing what to do first. And there are all these competing ideas. But we've got a way of assisting you unpack and say, look, we believe this is where you should begin. And then you put it into actionable plans. In other words, when the month begins, you set out the activities that are related to you achieving your goals, the steps towards that goal. So you put that up front. So every month, you know what your month is going to look like. At the beginning of the week, you set out a plan for the week. You know what the week is going to look like. And by doing that, you're basically allocating this resource called time for your activities, because it is within time that things happen.
True.
So if you're not going to plan it up front, and things are going to happen, you expect things to happen willy-nilly and by chance, they will not happen. Because you've got this resource called time.
Yes.
As somebody once said, if you respect time, time will respect you. And your things will happen. So the Map for Life process is really around that. And then there are obviously coaching and consulting hours that, then I would engage with you, having done that, where we can meet maybe monthly or even quarterly, depending on our maturity levels, because some people need to be pushed more. Some can naturally gravitate and get going. But the key to success really is having an accountability partner. We all need accountability partners around our goals. And I'm trying to inculcate a culture where, I'm actually going to be doing a lot of that in 2023. I'm setting up what I call purpose-driven clubs and map cafes. And these map cafes and clubs are really where we meet periodically once a month, just to engage around our goals. Every one of us, we having our plans, and it's people who are serious about achieving and attaining. And they haven't achieved and attained previously because they did not have an accountability partner. So that's really the Map for Life process and the journey and the type of approach that as a life coach I use.
Lovely, lovely. also like the way, you came alive when you started explaining it.
Exactly.
So my last question to you is, how do you want to be remembered as Sebonego?
Look, the truth of the matter is, it is those that will remain when they look back who will really say, this man was like this. But to answer your question, if I could be remembered as somebody who ignited the man and the woman within, who brought spark to people's lives, who assisted structure them to achieve their goals, who eventually left life with a people who are value-adding, a people who are loving, a people who have discovered themselves, I'll be at peace. I always say to people, even now, if I were to lose my life, if I was to die today, I'm at peace with myself, purely because of the type of value addition, the type of transformed life I've seen. And there's nothing as fulfilling as that, where you've seen adding lives and solving deep problems that people have, and people become better people. So yeah.
Awesome. Well put. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Sebonego. I hope you guys have loved his story as much as I have. And I hope you've found a lot of value in what we've talked about today. And if you have, please drop a like below and comment below on your biggest takeaway, and definitely consider subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we'll meet same time, same place.